All right, well, I am very excited to be here with Caleb Nichols. Caleb, thanks so much. We are here at the Fall Flood Fest. Very exciting. You're going to be performing in just a few minutes, but I wanted to talk to you about a couple things. I checked out your new release, Double Mantasy. Very cool. Could you tell us a little bit about that? The inspiration, the cover art's beautiful. I love the website. Tell us a little bit about that release.
Well, I had an idea after my last band ended. I thought about what I wanted to do, and I had this idea after I got married. I kind of took a month off and thought, and I wanted to make an album that was based on the life of the Beatles character, Mr. Mustard.
Okay.
You know, Mean Mr. Mustard?
Yes, of course.
So then I just started writing an album about him.
Okay, and then,
Yeah.
and then of course, kind of a little spin on the Double Fantasy, John Lennon kind of take there.
Yeah, because it's a John Lennon song, and it was funny. I thought it was funny. So, yeah, it's just like a concept album about what made Mr. Mustard such a mean old man.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's a really good sort of hook. You guys are going to have to check it out because I'm really interested in deciphering what made Mr. Mustard become the man that he ultimately became. So it's a very fascinating hook.
It's all in there. It's all in there.
Very cool, very cool. Well, Caleb, I want to talk to you. Here we are at the Fall Flood Fest, hosted by or facilitated by Carver Cordes and many other people. And Kyle Field is going to be on stage. And have you had the pleasure of performing with Kyle in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up here in the 90s and was in high school in the 90s, and Kyle was here at that time in a band called Rodriguez with Matt Ward, and I know I've played shows with him, and we kind of ran the same circles for a while. And then when I was in Port O'Brien, Matt Ward was like a big supporter of us and was kind of the reason, actually, that things happened for us. So kind of a family vibe. Okay. He's a fellow traveler.
Yes.
Still traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Metaphorically and perhaps physically, literally, maybe too.
He's always on the road. He's like always doing it. So he's the real deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, Caleb, I do remember seeing you. I think I saw you back in the 90s. You know, the slow music scene has really spawned a lot of great musicians over the years, as you just mentioned. And I remember being impressed. I have good, vague, but positive memory of seeing you perform, I think in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I'm very excited about tonight. But I want to talk to you about kind of some of your music inspirations. I know that's kind of a cliched thing, but, you know, when you were coming up, when you were maybe a teenager or whatever, what kind of albums were you listening to? What kind of got you down on this path of, hey, I want to be a musician?
Well, it all started for me with the Beatles in junior high, like everybody. From there, I think Radiohead was the next step. Okay. And then from there, in the late 90s, it was like the kind of indie rock renaissance, like Belle and Sebastian, Blonde Redhead, Modest Mouse, Pinback, like 98, like 99, into the 2000s. And then that's kind of where I formed, I would guess, like my formative years of making music. And, you know, like indie kind of went from there to like, you know, the folk thing happened in the mid-2000s and things changed, and then they changed again, and now it's kind of the dance music thing. I don't know. But that's where I come from, is those like pre-commercial indie rock, like masterpieces, like, yeah.
Built to Spill, some Modest Mouse, some Pixies.
Yeah. Pixies, 2004 Pixies reunion was a big deal for me because I listened to the Pixies since like high school and never thought ever that you'd see them play. Like never thought that would happen, and then that happened. And I mean, people talk about the like age of reunions, but for us who were born in the 80s and didn't get to see the first wave of indie in the late 80s, like such a treat, like seeing the Pixies, and that was huge for me in 04, and seeing Pavement in 2010 was huge too. I mean, those guys like make good stuff. Like it's just a thing, like, you know?
I'm a huge Pixies fan. I actually, I missed out on so many waves of music. I was too young. I never had a cooler older sibling that would take me under their arm, but I did get to see the Pixies in high school, and I did get to see Pavement in the 90s. And I know. I don't want to, you know, but I remember when the Pixies in 2004, that reunion news was so huge. I remember, you know, that was, I mean, the internet was around, but social media wasn't really around. Maybe Friendster was around. I don't know.
That's an important part of the whole thing. Like word of mouth was like in Slow. We had like a couple people who seemed to know. Wasn't me at all, I assure you. but there was people that knew things like about 3 Mile Pilot from San Diego and Pinback and stuff, or like Malik at Boo Boo's. Like, he knew things, and you'd go talk to him about, and that's how you'd find out about stuff. And like, slow was weird back then. It still is weird, but it was weirder in that like things would happen. Like, I saw Deerhoof play at Linnea's in like 1998 or 99, and they were we just walk in, normal night, all you do in high school is smoke cigarettes and drink coffee all night, and then you go in there and there's like they had deer hats on. Unless I'm like, I tell this story all the time, and
it could be like a dream, maybe. We'll have to verify it.
I'm pretty sure. And they were just like a trio at that point, and they were just like jamming, and it was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it was great.
That's awesome.
That stuff happened all the time back then, though.
Well, I want to talk to you about the slow scene, especially back in the day, early 90s into the 90s, pre-internet era, certainly. A lot of bands played at Linnea's. Linnea's, just for the record, one of the original coffee houses in San Luis before coffee became a big thing, and now there are coffee houses everywhere.
They were the first coffee house in San Luis. Literally the first coffee house, 1984. Yeah.
And for those that weren't around, Linnea's was so integral to the San Luis scene. Thursday nights, all the goth kids would go there and hang out. Yep, I had friends that would do that. It was like the thing to do.
I got a smoking ticket.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Recently or back then?
When I was 16. I got caught smoking, and I had to go to court with my mom. Wow. I know, it was super punk.
That's how hardcore you were, man. Smoking. And now, of course, I don't know if it's ironic or appropriate or very consistent with that. Of course, now it is a citable offense even more explicitly in San Luis Obispo. Yeah. Not just minors. I guess back then it was if you were a minor, that was an issue. So many bands played at Linnea's, man. I've heard legends. Somebody I talked to a while back said that Modest Mouse played there in like 1992 or something like that. I think it was Mike Funk, who knows.
I was only 10, so I don't know about that. But
and a lot of other random shows. We're here at the Slow Grange in like 2002. Cat Power played here. I remember that show.
I remember that. Yes, I was there. You were at that one. Yes, in this Pinback, one of my high school bands opened for Pinback in here, and lots of stuff has happened in this room. Lots of cool shows.
All right, so we're kind of coming full circle tonight. That sounds kind of cliche, but we'll just own that and claim that is what it is. Caleb, I know we've been Facebook acquaintances for a little while, and I know that I kind of want to ask a question about to what extent does politics influence that was. He didn't pay me to do this. I know Caleb is a big Bernie Sanders supporter, and you recently organized or were part of an event. It was a concert kind of in support, fundraising for Bernie. Could you tell us a little bit about why you're so passionate about Bernie, what it is about him as a candidate that you think is deserving of our support?
Everything. He's an honest politician who's been in the politics game for 30 years or whatever, and he's been calling himself a socialist for a long time, and I would identify politically that way as well, democratic socialist. And I just feel really strongly about his message, and I think Obama did a really good job of setting the progressive agenda and getting us to a place where socialism wasn't a bad word, because in the Bush years, it was the worst thing, and it was a dark time. It was a different time, and I think people have forgotten that. And I think the last 8 years have been difficult, but have set us up for this possible moment. I don't know if he'll win. I hope so. I work for him when I can. We did a Chalk the Block. We're going to do some honkin' waves soon. I think that's the cool thing about his movement. He's really trying to get people organized, and I think when he becomes president, he's going to keep that momentum going. That's what it's all about. You got to get the House, and it's a movement. It's not just a vote for me, I'll take care of it. It's a political movement. It's getting people engaged, and millennials, of which I guess I'm kind of in that zone. I'm an old millennial. It's engaging us and making us kind of be excited about politics and the possibilities. And you can't name a position besides gun control that he has that I'm not in favor of. And I'm not against his gun control thing, but I feel like I'm more of a get rid of the guns, all of them, right now. Okay? That's it.
Yeah, during the debates with Hillary, there was that mention about the different stances on registering weapons and things like that. But
and I think I know what he's trying to say, and I think he's got to do better at messaging that he's trying to say we have to find common ground because there are just so many people who feel differently. So I feel that, and I actually really respect that. I think that we do need to not just mow over people whose opinions are different than ours, even though ours are clearly right. I think that he's I think that's one of his charming things. Like he's not blowing smoke. He's telling the truth, and it's hard. It's hard. Democracy is supposed to be hard. Yeah.
There's some blood, sweat, and tears that go into that to keep it alive. Well, Caleb, as a musician, kind of a cliched question, I guess, as well. But as a musician, I mean, do politics inform your work, or do you try to keep your art form separate from the political realm? I mean, are we going to hear Caleb out there singing protest songs soon?
Not tonight. Okay. I have. It depends. Like on the project, some of the stuff I've done has been political. Most of it hasn't been. The band, I was in a band called the Bloody Heads. That definitely had some political edge to it. And I think that was because in my early 20s, I was super political. So I'm kind of feeling the burn and getting more into politics again in my early 30s, and maybe that will creep into my songwriting. Right now, I'm really focused on this album I just made and more of a less personal stuff in my music and more creativity, just like more storytelling and trying to make something different than what I feel inside, actually crafting something else. Because I've done a lot of that, and I think it's great. I mean, sing your life, Morrissey said that, but it's not the direction I'm in right now. So tonight's about the Beatles, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, kind of transcend the day-to-day struggles that we deal with is an important thing with music, and to not reinforce the struggles that we're in sometimes.
I love political music, and I think it's super important. And the last band I was in, Churches, definitely had some of that too, especially on a couple of our later releases. But, from the perspective of someone who's working every night, it does get tiring singing about negative stuff. So part of my project, Double Manasy, I was like, well, I'm tired of screaming on stage. Churches was a pretty aggressive rock band, and I was like, okay, well, let's do something that feels good, and that's fine. You can do both. So I'm in that zone right now. Yeah.
One last question for you, Caleb, before it looks like you're going to get on stage here in just a couple minutes. But in terms of audio formats, Double Mantasy, digital download, correct? But released on vinyl, released on CD. What are you as a musician? Do you feel strongly about what format your art form takes shape as?
It's Double Mantasy. I self-released on cassette, CD, and digital. I chose those formats because I could afford to do them. I obviously would love to press vinyl, but I didn't want to invest in it. It's just a lot of money. And I've been involved in some projects. You usually lose money on it, and that's cool, but not this time. Cassettes are rad. They sound good. They really do. And there's some great presses in the United States. National Audio Company is the best, in my opinion. And I do care about format. We actually, in the mastering for this record, we thought a lot about that, and we mastered differently for CD and tape and digital. And if you get the tape, there's stuff on the tape that's not on the CD. Not that much stuff, but there's formatting things. I think it's really important. I think physical is important, but I have Spotify. I use it all the time. It's great. It's amazing. But I made CDs because I still like to pop a CD into my car. Totally. Yeah, I have a car. I live in California, so I like to cruise with that. I think it's great. And I like to have a thing to hold too, so.
Something tangible, and today here we were at the Slow Record Swap, huge event, lots of people. I dare say hundreds, maybe even 1,000 people today, showing love for the vinyl format in particular. And there's something about the tangibility of music in this day and age. I know this has been stated many, many times, but to see young and old here today, purchasing records in droves was pretty impressive.
It's cool. I worked at Amoeba Music in Berkeley and Streetlight Records in Santa Cruz, so I'm a vinyl fan and record store person. And Boo Boo's, the thing about record stores, Boo Boo's, for example, in San Luis, they're just like I was saying earlier, you go to the record store and talk about music. You gotta have that. You gotta have that. It's a community.
It's a beautiful thing, and we gotta support it. Well, Caleb, we'll let you go on stage, and thanks again for your time, man. Thanks, bud. All right, bud.